So here we are looking at the very beginning, just the opening of the fundamentals of industrial management, which, as far as I know, was a document that was produced perhaps not just by Homer Saracen, but I think he was the leading figure, produced by American executives who were sent to Japan to help the Japanese rebuild their economies. Saracen was apparently concentrating on the radio industry. And this is a book. This is just the opening of it. It gets much more specific. But this is really the philosophical statement at the beginning of the book, stating Saracen's philosophy of management. And I think that in the things that I've read in business ethics over the years, that this is probably the thing that's been most influential on me. And that's not necessarily because of the particular answers that Saracen gives here about what business should be. It's rather the question that he starts with: why does any company exist? What is the reason for being of any business enterprise? The very notion that you can ask that question, that is an open question, came as something as a revelation to me. And I think that it's the kind of question we don't ask about commerce, about business, about industry very often, because we take it for granted, perhaps without ever really articulating it to ourselves, that businesses are things created by individuals to enrich themselves. So that we probably never really ask what the reason for being of a business enterprise is, but we probably also kind of unconsciously take it for granted that the purpose of a business enterprise is profit. So the very notion that we can ask the question, I think, is something that a very valuable thing that we're getting out of Saracen. But we should also see that he immediately dismisses the idea that the purpose of a company is to make a profit. That's what he says. Why? Well, if we look a little bit farther in, he says there is another fault that I would find in such a statement, that is a statement that the purpose of business is profit. He says it is entirely selfish and one-sided. It ignores entirely the sociologic aspects that should be a part of a company's thinking. And by sociologic, I suppose he means some sort of consciousness of the place of the business enterprise within the community. The business enterprise must be founded upon a sense of responsibility to the public and to its employees. Service to its customers, the well-being of its employees, good citizenship in the communities in which it operates, these are cardinal principles fundamental to any business. They provide the platform upon which a profitable company is built. Now, I don't think that he's saying there that this question of the reason for being of the enterprise, the objective of the enterprise. I don't think he's saying that the answer to that question in any particular case is to serve the community, but those things are kind of in the background. The more likely answer to a question like, what is the objective of the business? What is the purpose of this business? Is given in his example of the Newport News Shipbuilding and Dry Dock Company. The founder of which said, we shall build good ships here, at a profit if we can, at a loss if we must, but always good ships. That is, in a specific way, the head of that company said that the purpose of the company is to build good ships. Now these other things, responsibility to the public, well-being of its employees, service to customers, they are all built into that. However, the purpose of that company was to build ships and to build good ships. As he says, this is the guiding principle of this company and its fundamental policy. And it is a good one, too, because in a very few words, it tells the whole reason for the existence of the enterprise. And yet, inherent in those few words, there is a wealth of meaning. This is opening something up for us, I think, in terms of how we think of businesses. Businesses, as we'll see, this idea is expanded on in Tawny's reading from The Acquisitive Society. Businesses exist to serve in some specific way the needs of the community. That is, they provide some service, something to the community that helps it. Either they could be ships, they could be shoes, they could be health, it could be entertainment, it could be education, it could be shirts and houses. I mean, the community has innumerable needs, both material needs, needs for service, needs for cultural things, need for all sorts of things, and that businesses emerge in order to respond to those needs, to give something to the community. Of course, hanging in the background here is, I think, for all of us who grew up in a capitalistic society, in a free market society, hanging in the background is, well, what about profit? What about making money? How can you have a business that focuses exclusively on providing a service without paying attention to making money? Well, the first thing I think I would point out is that he never says anywhere that you shouldn't be concerned with making money. He doesn't have a worked out idea of that here, but there's never any denial that a business is a profit-making enterprise and needs to make profits. All he said is that can't be the central focus. The central focus of any business enterprise is whatever it actually does. There are very few businesses where what they do every day is try to make money. What you do every day is you try to build something that's good. You try to distribute it as widely as you can. You try to make your service or your good as best as you can possibly make it. And in the background, of course, is the assumption that you have to make money, but that can't be the number one thing. And here perhaps is where this distinction in the beginning, where he says there are two ways of looking at the statement about profit. One is to make the product for a cost that is less than the price at which it is to be sold. The other is to sell the product for a price higher than the cost to make. And that's an interesting distinction. For him, it's full of meaning. That is, the first attitude, to make the product for a cost that is less than the price at which it is to be sold, is the good attitude. We should be thrifty. We should try to produce things as efficiently as possible, and that will ensure profit. The other is just to jack up the price, to as high as you can make it. The other is to sell the product for a price higher than it costs to make, which means, whatever it costs to make, it really doesn't matter as long as we can jack up the price. That is the sloppy, selfish, short-sighted way of viewing things that he's condemning. So we could ask about profits. Why do you want to make a profit? To make as much money as you can, or to stay in business so that you can continue to serve the community? It's a very real question, which we'll be talking about in this course. Of course, the whole, really the central idea here is that every business has to be very clear-sighted about what its purpose is, and that this is not only an ethical thing, it's a practical thing. You have to decide what you're about. What is it that you do? Because all of the resources of the company should be marshaled in order to do that thing and to do it well.